Chapter 11. A Perfect Holiday. Patrick and I were on the hills outside town when I told him about the holiday. He was doing a 16-mile run, and I was following him on my bicycle. "You what?" he shouted over his shoulder. "I'm not coming to the triathlon in Spain," I said. "I'm going away with Will. I'm working." Patrick turned to look at me, with his legs still moving under him. "But I thought that you were coming to watch me. Why can't they get a nurse to go with him?" And he began to run faster. I could see that he was very angry, and I knew that I had to tell him. "Patrick!" I shouted. "He wants to die, Patrick! He wants to kill himself!" Patrick immediately slowed. "Say that again?" And so I told him. I told him about Dignitas and Will's promise to his mother. "I know that it sounds crazy," I said, "but I have to change his mind. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you before, but I couldn't." He did not answer, and he still looked angry. He swallowed twice, and then he said, "Lou, we have been together for 7 years, and you've known this man for 5 months. If you go with him now, you are telling me something about how you feel about us. Don't you understand?" "That's not true. I want to run by myself now, Louisa, okay?" he said, and he turned away. I was silent for a moment, and then I said, "Okay. I think it's best if we finish things. I won't stay with you tonight." That evening, Nathan called me. "Will is ill again," he said. "This is his 3rd infection in 2 years, and he's worst because now he's in hospital." I immediately went to the hospital and found Will lying in bed with tubes coming out of him. He had a mask over his mouth and nose, and his eyes were closed. Mrs. Traynor sat next to him. "He's a bit better," she said tiredly. "They are giving him strong antibiotics. Will you stay with him while I go home and get some clothes?" "Of course." The days and nights went past. I heard nothing from Patrick, but it did not matter. I sat and held Will's hand and looked into his face. On day 3, when he slowly opened his eyes, I stood over him and lifted his mask. "How are you feeling?" I asked, trying not to cry. "I've been better," he replied. While I was sitting with Will, I used my phone to look for holidays for disabled people. I needed to find somewhere where he could relax and get better. Finally, I found a holiday that was perfect. 10 days later, Mr. Traynor drove us to Gatwick Airport, and we flew to Mauritius. Nathan came with us. The 12-hour flight went well, but Will was quiet and did not eat very much. When we arrived, a driver took us to the hotel. The island was beautiful and green, and the sea around us was a deep blue. Will slept for the first 2 days. But then, suddenly, he started to look better. His face had colour in it, and he began to eat again in the hotel's 3 restaurants. I began to enjoy myself too, and I slowly saw that this was the most beautiful place in the world. Our days had a nice routine. Every day, we took Will to the tables around the swimming pool for breakfast. Then we went to the beach. It wasn't as difficult on the beach with Will's wheelchair as I thought it would be. I read, and Will sat with his eyes closed, listening to music. Nathan usually swam. Sometimes we helped Will into the warm water, and he looked happy and relaxed. His skin became brown, and he stopped wearing a shirt. For lunch, we went to one of the restaurants, and then we spent the hot afternoons in our rooms before meeting again in the evening. Then we all ate and drank wine and talked about our lives. On the 4th night, Nathan met a girl, and they went out to a restaurant. Will and I were alone. That night, I sat on the bed next to him. There was a big storm, and we watched the wind and rain through the window with our legs touching. Then I held his hand. He turned his head and smiled at me. "Not bad, is it, Clark?" he said. "No," I said. "Not bad at all." On the last night, Will and I went to the beach together. Nathan was out with his girlfriend. I was wearing a white dress, and I had a flower in my hair. The night was warm, and I could smell the sea. We sat under our favourite tree. "Are you glad that you came?" I asked. He nodded. "Oh, yes. You are wonderful, Clark." I looked at him, and then I moved forward and kissed him, and he kissed me back. And just for a moment, I could smell his skin and feel his soft hair under my fingers, and it was just Will and me on this beautiful island with the night sky above us. Then suddenly he pulled back. "I can't," he said. "Why? I don't understand," I replied. He swallowed. "Because I can't be the man I want to be with you." I continued to hold his face in my hands. "Listen, Will. I know about Dignitas. I don't care what you can and can't do. I know this isn't a normal love story, but I love you, Will. I knew it when I left Patrick, and I think you love me too." For a moment he just looked at me. Then he said very quietly, "I'm sorry. It's not enough." "I don't understand." "I know that this could be a good life," he went on. "Maybe very good with you around. But it's not my life. I loved my life before the accident, Clark. I liked riding my motorbike. I liked climbing mountains and bungee jumping. I don't want to live in this wheelchair. I'm going to get more and more ill. You saw what I was like in the hospital when I had that infection." I was crying now. "Please, Will, don't say this. Please try." "No," he said. "I'm going to Dignitas on the 13th of August. And if you really love me, you will come with me." I stood up then. "No," I said. "I tell you that I love you, But you want me to come and watch you kill yourself? Louisa! Don't, I shouted. Don't say another word. How can you ask me to do that? Why did I take this stupid job? And then I ran up the beach and back to my hotel room.